Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live without smartphones, modern cars, or any kind of technological comfort that we no longer even notice? Now imagine a place without any of that, a place where even the type of wheel on a tractor is up for discussion. Sounds crazy, right? But this is the daily life of the Mennonites, one of the most mysterious and fascinating communities on the planet. With traditions that seem to have stood still in time and customs that will leave you intrigued, they follow a lifestyle that defies everything we consider normal. Who are these people and what makes them so different? Today, Bello Mundo takes you to discover the secrets and curiosities of a universe you didn't even know existed. Number 1. A quick walk through history. Before diving into the customs that make the Mennonites so unique, it's worth taking a trip back in time to understand their origins. The name Mennonite comes from Menno Simons, a former Dutch Catholic priest who lived between 496 and 561. He joined the Anabaptist movement in the 16th century, arguing that faith should be a conscious choice, hence adult baptism, as well as preaching the autonomy of Christian communities and unconditional pacifism. Ideas like these did not please the authorities of the time, and the Mennonites ended up being persecuted in various parts of Europe. To escape this persecution, they spread around the world. They migrated to Russia, crossed the Atlantic, and arrived in Canada, the United States, and later Latin America, in countries such as Mexico, Paraguay, Bolivia, and Brazil. But they didn't stop there. They also settled in parts of Africa and Asia. In each new destination, they brought with them a lifestyle centered on faith, simplicity, and agriculture. Number 2. Languages. Perhaps one of the most unusual facts about the Mennonites is the maintenance of archaic dialects, especially Plautdietsch, a variation of 16th century Low German. It is passed down from generation to generation and is the language spoken at home, at family gatherings, and at religious ceremonies. Despite its historical origins, the language has evolved over time, adapting to the places where Mennonites have settled. In Mexico, for example, it gained words from Spanish, while in Paraguay, it incorporated influences from Guarani, creating unique versions of this language. Another interesting point is the bilingualism, and in many cases, trilingualism, that is part of Mennonite life. The children learn the language of the community at home, but they also master the local language, such as Spanish, Portuguese, or English, at school and in social life. It's a way for them to preserve their roots while adapting to the realities of where they live. Number 3. Amish and Mennonites. A very common question is, aren't they the same as the Amish? In fact, both groups come from the Anabaptist movement and share values such as simple living, an emphasis on community and pacifism. However, the Mennonites tend to be more open to technology than the Amish, although this depends very much on the community in question. While the stricter Amish reject cars and electricity, several Mennonite groups do use vehicles, cell phones, and even social networks, as long as they consider these tools useful and not harmful to religious life. In short, you can't confirm that all Mennonites look like the stereotypical Amish image of straw hats and suspenders. Even if you want to know more about the Amish community, we've already made complete videos here on the channel. If you haven't seen them yet, here's the tip. The dark secrets of Amish women. In this video, we reveal the restrictive and often surprising traditions that women face, like in some communities, where they can't even choose their clothes or wear a bra. The content is unmissable and full of details that will blow your mind. Number 4. From farmers to global entrepreneurs. Mennonites have a unique connection with the land. For them, farming isn't just a job, it's part of their identity. And you know what's impressive? They manage to turn even the most challenging terrain into fertile and productive areas. An incredible example of this is the Paraguayan Chaco. They arrived there and, with a lot of hard work, transformed the region into a hub for the production of milk, cheese, cereals, and meat. What was once seen as an inhospitable place is now a benchmark, thanks to the dedication of these communities. But don't think that this connection with the land ties them to the past. Many Mennonites have gone one step further and become great entrepreneurs. Their artisan cheeses and organic products, for example, are exported and valued on international markets. Now, you know what's curious? Some Mennonite communities have started to attract tourists. Yes, there is Mennonite tourism. In regions such as Mexico and Paraguay, visitors go to see what life is like in the colonies. But not every Mennonite group sees this in a positive light, which brings us to our next topic. Number 5. Conservatives and liberals. One of the biggest surprises about getting to know Mennonites is that the term doesn't define a single lifestyle. There are extremely conservative communities, similar to the Amish, while others are closer to conventional evangelical Christians, with a touch of Mennonite tradition. In the more conservative wings, rejection of technology is the norm. In some colonies, not even paraffin candles are allowed, and only kerosene lamps are used. Even photography is avoided due to fears of vanity or image worship. In northern Mexico, for example, farmers still use tractors with iron wheels. The idea is to prevent them from leaving the settlement easily and to reinforce the value of sweaty faces without the comfort of rubber tires. At the other extreme, liberal Mennonites live in urban areas, attend universities, and work in offices. They maintain the principles of peace and simplicity, but use technology to facilitate trade in agricultural products and connect to the globalized world. Many communities prefer a middle ground. They use the internet sparingly, block inappropriate websites, or create rules for using smartphones. The big challenge is to balance ancestral faith with the demands of modern life without losing the essence that defines them. After all, there is no cake recipe for life. Each community finds its own way of dealing with change while trying to maintain its essence. Number 6. Cooking. Speaking of cake recipes, among the curiosities circulating on the internet, there are several urban legends about the Mennonites linked mainly to their cuisine. Some people think that they only eat chicken and potatoes, but this is far from the truth. Mennonite cuisine is simple, yes, but at the same time varied and full of unique flavors. Among the highlights are the homemade, fluffy, and fragrant breads, stuffed pies, and, of course, fresh cheeses that conquer any palate. The Germanic roots appear in dishes reminiscent of Central European cuisine, but always with a local twist. In Mexico, for example, it's common to see hybrid versions with spicy ingredients, while in Paraguay, Guarani influences make the cuisine even more interesting, with tereré appearing at family gatherings. In addition, most of the food comes straight from the community's gardens and farms, produced in a natural and sustainable way. It's the famous farm-to-table that's so popular these days, but which the Mennonites have practiced for centuries. Number 7. Daily life and customs. The routine in the communities follows a very characteristic rhythm, always marked by faith and simplicity. During the week, work is the priority. Whether in the fields, at home, or in collective activities, everyone starts early and immerses themselves in their responsibilities. Sunday, on the other hand, is reserved for rest, services, and that special time to get the family together, essential for strengthening bonds and celebrating life together. And speaking of traditions, you may have noticed that in every photo or movie about these communities, there's always a barn, right? But if you think it's just a simple grain store, you're wrong. The barns are practically the heart of the community. It's where the big events take place: weddings, meetings, parties, and any occasion that brings several families together. It's not just a place to work, but a meeting place to celebrate and strengthen bonds. This practice has even been portrayed in the movie The Witness from 1985, in a more Hollywood version, but which still shows the symbolism of this moment. This lifestyle prioritizes the collective and simplicity. No ostentation and unbridled consumerism. The focus is on community, family, and honest work. Number 8. Clothing. And speaking of simplicity, this is also evident in clothing. When we think of Mennonite fashion, it's common to imagine women wearing discreet dresses and headscarves, while men appear in wide-brimmed hats and very simple clothes. And yes, this does exist, but it doesn't tell the whole story. In the more traditional communities, there are very clear rules about appearance. No flashy clothes, jewelry is almost never allowed, makeup is out of the question, and men keep practical, basic haircuts. All this reflects a commitment to modesty and a focus on spiritual values, without distractions or ostentation. But not all communities follow this strict style. In more liberal places, people wear clothes that are considered normal for everyday life: jeans, t-shirts, sneakers, and even more modern clothes. The only concern, in general, is to keep things simple and avoid excesses that might look like consumerism. In other words, as with the use of technology, clothing also depends on the community, and so you can't put everyone on the same page. Number 9. Beliefs. Regardless of where they are or the lifestyle they adopt, one thing unites all Mennonites: their religious beliefs. Religion is the center of life in these communities. As Christians, they reject infant baptism, believe in adult baptism as a conscious act, and see collective work as a form of prayer. The basis of the Mennonite faith is salvation through Jesus Christ, the authority of the Bible, the Holy Spirit, and baptism. For them, baptism is more than a rite. It is a symbol of purification, a commitment to the community, and a mature choice. Another pillar of Mennonite identity is pacifism. Since their origins, they have rejected wars and weapons, which has brought them both respect and persecution. In the United States, many have been recognized as conscientious objectors, contributing in other ways, such as in hospitals or community services, without ever taking up arms. This unwavering pacifism inspires admiration, but also criticism. Solidarity is also central. Helping others, whether with donations, volunteer work, or emotional support, is commonplace. Moreover, Mennonites extend this care outside their communities. The Mennonite Central Committee, known by the acronym MCC, created in 1920, is an example of how they bring humanitarian aid and promote development projects in various parts of the world. Number 10. Traditions. As we've already seen, baptism is one of the most important moments in Mennonite life, marking the official entry into the community and the commitment to the faith. But this is not the only practice full of meaning. In some communities, foot washing also occupies a special place. The foot washing ritual is inspired by the biblical account in John 13:1-17, where Jesus washes the feet of his disciples during the Last Supper as a gesture of humility and service. Various Christian denominations preserve this tradition, each with its own interpretation. In the Catholic religion, for example, the ceremony takes place on Holy Thursday, during Holy Week. Among the Mennonites, foot washing reinforces the willingness to abandon pride, kneel before one's neighbor, reject worldly power, and live with humility and sacrificial love. But the traditions of this group go far beyond this ritual. And look how curious it is. Dating also follows specific rules. Girls can be courted from the age of 15 or 16, but there are no impromptu dates. Everything has a date, time, and place. They only happen on Thursdays and Sundays from 8 to 10 in the evening, and always at the girl's house, with supervision, of course. During courtship, it's common for girls to receive gifts from their suitors. Now, you know what's interesting? If the courtship ends, they return the gifts. It's tradition. And if the relationship develops into a marriage, things are even more different than we're used to. Here, the bride's family pays for everything. And unlike in many parts of the world where the bride's family receives the dowry, here it's the groom who wins. He receives a dowry that can include cows, household utensils, and even financial help to start a new life. Another very different detail is the bride's dress. For them, black is not the color of mourning, but of elegance. Yes, the bride wears black on the big day, and the groom also follows suit. Preparations begin a week beforehand with family gatherings and celebrations that culminate in the ceremony on Sunday. Everything is simple, but full of meaning. And when the cycle of life comes to an end, funerals also follow a tradition of their own. When someone from the community dies, the body is laid to rest at home on a makeshift bed made of wet sand and covered with a cloth, while ice is placed around it to preserve it. The wake lasts 3 days, but only during the day. At night, everyone rests. At the end, after Mass, the burial is carried out in total simplicity. No crosses or elaborate headstones. Just a flat stone marks the grave with the name and dates engraved on it. Number 11. Mennonite Airbnb. As we've already seen, Mennonites are spread across many parts of the world, and hospitality is a characteristic that unites all these communities.